This is the word works. This is the word works. This is the word works. Oh, this is
Hello everyone, welcome back to combining spiritual and academic excellence tips. In short, the CSAE tips. You're with me as usual, Lusu, and my co-host Rachel.
Hi everybody, welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be continuing what we talked about last week, which was a very deep conversation about faith, so we promised to carry it to this week so we could expand on it a little bit more. But before we do that, I want to remind you to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you turn on notifications so that every time we post a new video, you get those notifications.
Yeah, Rachel, definitely like our Facebook page and subscribe. To get into today's topic, we're going to talk about the role of your faith and your actions. And as Rachel said last week, we talked about what faith is. We talked about how to build your faith. And today we're going to get in a little bit more into how your faith and your actions are connected.
Absolutely. So I think combining faith with action is actually what will cause a lot of believers who think they have faith to not get the results that they should. And so I'll read a scripture actually, James 2 verse 17, which reads, "So also faith, if it does not have works, deeds, and actions of obedience to back it up, by itself is destitute of power, inoperative, or dead." Which kind of says it all.
Yeah, faith without works is dead. You know, that's what actually it says. Faith without works is dead. If you don't have the faith, then, if you don't have the actions, but you say you have the faith, then one can conclude that you don't have the faith. And what that reminds me of is Peter and Jesus. When Jesus walked on water, he walked to the disciples who were in the boat. And as he was walking, the disciples see him. And Peter says, if it's really you, please bid me to come to you. And, Jesus says, come. And Peter starts to walk on water, and then he sees the winds, and then he starts to sink. And what I see in that is Peter taking a leap of faith, actually putting his faith to action, his faith to work by walking, taking his feet out of the boat and actually stepping into the water. Even though he started to sink later on, we'll talk a little bit more about the doubt, but he actually took a step of faith, and that is what faith is. You act on what you have actually believed.
Definitely. So I think it is action. The faith has to come with action. And I think something that Pastor really expounded on well in the CSAE second edition, which I'll read from now. I'm going to read from page 178, where Pastor defines what that action is a little bit, because I think some of you might be wondering, okay, is there a specific action or does it depend on the situation? And I think this will help give you some clarity.
Sorry, what page are you reading from?
178 in the CSAE second edition. So it says, "So what is this action? Action is simply the corresponding or resultant thing that you do as a result of your faith. The action should always be that which it would be if you saw the physical manifestation of it. So action is the blood and life of faith. As we referenced in James earlier, it says, for as the human body apart from the spirit is lifeless, so faith apart from its works of obedience is also dead." James likens the life in a human body to action. Nobody without life would do anything at all. Likewise, no faith without works can accomplish anything. So a practical example that Pastor uses is, suppose after exam you receive an email that tells you that your average is now a distinction, you got a distinction on the exam. If you knew you got a distinction, you'd likely be telling everybody that you got a distinction, that you passed, and that you're very excited. But that's not necessarily acting on faith, because you already know, you've been given the physical manifestation of that result. But where faith would come in and where acting on your faith would come in is if after you took the exam, before you knew your score, you told everyone you got a distinction because you had the faith that you'd already received that.
Isn't that a bit risky though? I mean, I get out of the exam and then I tell everybody I passed before the results are out. I mean, am I not going to be scared that if I fail, then everybody's going to laugh at me?
I don't think so. I think that's what we're trying to get to. Like that's what we're trying to emphasize, that faith, that action is saying, I've already got it. That's how big your faith is.
So if I get to say, what if people laugh at me? So if people laugh at me, then maybe I should not tell them that I have passed before the results come out. Then that means there's no faith there, yeah? I think that's what it is. If I'm afraid of telling everybody, then maybe there's no faith there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit. And I think the best action can be what you show and what you say. And I think it's a combination of what you think to yourself, what you speak out to other people, and also what you speak to yourself. Your declarations, your words have power, no matter if you're speaking them to yourself or someone else. And I think that's really important. And that's also emphasized in Scripture in Romans 10, verse 10, which says that with the heart we believe and with our mouth we confess. In the Amplified Version, it says, we declare openly and speak freely his faith. And so it's all about speaking that out and confessing what you believe.
You know, when you were reading that, I was just reminded of what Apostle Paul says in the book of Corinthians. So maybe I could just read that. The book of 2 Corinthians 4, verse 13. It says, "We having the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed and therefore have I spoken. We also believe and therefore speak." So Romans 10 verse 10 is saying, with the heart we believe and with the mouth we make confession. But 2 Corinthians 4 verse 13 is saying, we having the same spirit of faith, you know, and it goes on to say, I believed and therefore have I spoken. The order Paul is giving us is, I believed and therefore have I spoken. What if I speak before I actually believe? You know, it's a messed up order. If I speak before I believe, then I shouldn't be surprised if I don't get the results that I thought I wanted, you know. I should actually believe and then speak. Right. That is a good order.
Yeah, the confession comes after the belief. That's the order you should operate in. So you need to believe it first and believe it so much that you start speaking it out and confessing it. So we have a little bit more to cover after, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back. So we're going to talk a little bit more about faith, and one thing that becomes important as we talk about faith is doubt. Well, we talked about Peter and how he saw the winds and he doubted and then he started to sink. So I would like to read a certain scripture, and we're going to talk a little bit more about doubt. What is doubt? What brings in doubt? And how can you get rid of all of that doubt? So let me just read James 1 verse 6 all the way to 7. It says, "But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord." So what the Bible here is saying is, if you are tossed to and from like the wind, you know, you doubt, then don't think that you will receive anything from the Lord. You're not going to receive anything from the Lord. You doubt. So doubt and faith are, you know, they don't go together.
Can't go together. Yeah, I think it also emphasizes that you have to believe it with every piece of your being, every cell of your body, and that has to coordinate with your action. And the more that you believe it and the more that it's deep in you and it's coming from your spirit and you're acting on your faith, the more the doubtful actions will disappear and your faith-filled actions will come forth. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah, maybe let me just, as you were talking, I was thinking of what Pastor writes in the book, in the second edition of Combining Spiritual and Academic Excellence book. From page 185, I remembered something that Pastor said there regarding your making confessions. So let me just read what it says there. Okay, so Pastor says, making confessions puts a responsibility on heavens that someone is speaking things on earth which may bring shame to the kingdom if he does not succeed. Trust me, angels will do whatever they can to make sure what you are speaking out to everyone happens. Even if they have to hold the exam marker's hand and make him mark wrong things. They would. Even if it meant they should mark the paper themselves in heaven and afterwards put it together with the other marked scripts on earth, They would. So this is something Pastor is saying. He's saying you making confessions, you speaking out what you have believed. It puts a responsibility on the angels to get together and work things out for you. You know.
Yeah, wow, that's really beautiful. I really love that example. When you put it that way, it's really hard to think about doubting it, you know? It makes it seem like it's kind of impossible to doubt, and I should have faith that when I'm saying something, when I'm acting upon something, that it'll happen because I've activated that divine help. So this topic has been wonderful. I've personally really enjoyed it, and it's definitely built up my faith a little bit more as well. Yeah,
I mean, I could say the same.
Yeah. So we read a lot from the second edition of CSA this time. So if you want to get that book, you can visit your nearest RFP branch, or you can go to Amazon.com and search for CSA or Pastor Aubrey Mwasinga. Before we go, I want to remind you to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel one more time and turn on those notifications so next time we post a video, you get the notifications. But that's all we had for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you next time.
The word.